Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Protocol Pegasus here, and bringing it back to you guys in Remnant from the Ashes. And today, we will be taking a look at the Headhunter's Burn-In build. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so opening up into my character sheet here, I'm using a sidearm known as the Hive Cannon, attached onto the weapon mod known as Hive Shot. I'm using my primary rifle known as the Beam Rifle, attached onto his weapon mod known as Swarm. From there, I'm using the Scythe, does 136 damage. From there, I'm using the Headhunter set for the helmet, the chest piece, as well as the pants. Then for the necklace, I'm using Butcher's Fetish. For the ring, I'm using Braden Thorns. And then for my second ring, I'm using Burden of the Gambler. Now, let's get into traits. For the three primary traits I do recommend utilizing is going to be as followed: Kingslayer, Executioner, and then go with Handling. Now, be that as it may, these are probably the three primary skills that you utilize within the course of the build. I still highly recommend going about getting every skill and attribute within the course of the game, because it will only further progress your build, making you more of a well-rounded and developed character, allowing you to progress even further throughout the course of the game. But I do believe these are the three primary skills you should focus on right off the bat. Now, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into gameplay, shall we? Alright, so we are on Apocalypse mode here on Earth. We are down below in the sewers, and I'm going to show you guys what this build happens to offer. So one of the cool aspects of this build right out of the gate is that it does have a lot of single target burst damage. Since you are using the beam rifle, it does crit very effectively and happens to do continuous damage to selective target that you're penetrating. And with that being said, you can kill elites relatively quickly, as well as mow down bosses pretty effectively without really worrying about, you know, the fact that you run out of ammo or that you're being so heavily encumbered by your armor set. So what's also nice is that not only do you have really nice single target base value damage, you also have really good AoE damage output. So one of the things that you should capitalize on the most is using the Hive Cannon to not only be able to burst down multiple enemies, but to be able to set up your area with the Hive Cannon's mod. Allowing to set up your area right before the enemies happen to come towards you will allow them to go about receiving damage and allowing them not to be able to regenerate any health. Excuse me. With that being said, you'll be able to capitalize on not only mowing down multiple groups of enemies, but as well as focusing on that single elite that might be in that group. So you don't end up getting blindsided, or you don't end up catching yourself off guard from these selective groups of enemies that happen to be flanking you. So it is a really nice touch, and I do love the synergy with this overall build, because I do feel as though that you have a lot of synergy with these set weapons, just swapping from AoE and doing the setup of the Hive Cannon to swapping over the beam rifle, the base single target damage output. So it is really nice. One of the things that I did notice, however, with this selective build is that there is no forms of self-sustain. So as you can see throughout the course of this dungeon, I will be continuously proccing consumables to be able to basically compensate for the lack of self-sustain the build does have to offer. But that's kind of the trade-off value that you end up spinning off with this selective build for high damage burst output, is you're going to lack in self-sustain. But in reality, if you can kill them fast enough, you won't really have to worry about taking too much damage to begin with, because they'll already be dead. So that's kind of the trade-off that you see there with this particular build. One of the other cool aspects of this build too is that it is a super lightweight frame. So the build allows you to go about being not only agile, but allowing you to basically position yourself accordingly, where you're not getting flanked as often as you might with a heavier armor set. It also allows you to easily position yourself away from the enemy to be able to set it up with your Hive Cannon, so your enemies happen to just trickle on in and take continuous damage output, and you just pretty much let them come to you. Another cool aspect is too, since you are using the insect mod, it actually allows you to go about bursting down your enemies rather quickly when it comes to like elites or multiple base targets, and pretty much it's your clutch button that you can utilize in a given instance to be able to capitalize on not only killing that single target really quick, but to be able to get out of a tight situation that you normally wouldn't live through. So in that aspect, it's a really nice mod. Just keep in mind that you really want to save it for those really clutch situations and not kind of utilize it in every single situation, because at the end of the day you can easily burst down grunts really effectively with your beam rifle, and then you just apply swarm on top of that just to clear them out even quicker. But as you walk around the corner you might run into an elite, so you just want to keep that in mind and just have your resources at your disposal in case you do happen to run into an elite. Another thing is too, since I am using my consumables quite often, is that I'm making sure that I'm capitalizing on my consumable game by going through a group of enemies, using my consumables, and just keep rotating them out. And as you see in the bottom left hand corner is that I do have a lot of consumables. I happen to go about stacking them. It's honestly not too much to go about keeping them consistently stacked up, so it's definitely something you guys should look into. If you're relatively new to the game, this might be a little bit harder, but at the end of the day it's not really meant for the lower tier worlds. It's more meant for the higher up worlds, such as like Nightmare or Apocalypse. So keep that in mind when going forward, is that you might want to stack up on a little bit of consumables, so that way you don't end up catching yourself off guard with a build that may or may not have high output of self-sustain. As you can see here too, some of the clips that I'm playing off is that you can see that I'm using my melee consistently to be able to clear out the small ads. The melee is really fast and has a high crit ratio, which ties into the build really effectively at the end of the day. So it's one of the reasons I did end up going with it, and from there I ended up capitalizing on my melee pretty well, I think. It does have a very short range, so keep that in mind, but it makes up for it with its fast attack speed, so you're not really falling too short in that regard. So it does work out pretty effectively. Just keep in mind, if you have an enemy that happens to explode or happens to do any form of AoE output damage, the melee might not be the best option in that regard. You might want to backpedal a little bit and just utilize your ranged weapons to be able to take out your enemy from that perspective. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it, guys. All in all, I do really happen to enjoy the build. I think it's a lot of fun. It's definitely different from what I've done thus far, but it is super awesome, and I highly recommend to go about checking it out and seeing what you guys think of it. I'd love to hear your feedback on this set build. And if you guys haven't already, feel free to like, favorite, subscribe. It really does help me out, and it pushes me further to go about doing more and more videos. I will continuously be posting more regularly, and from there let me know what you guys think of what I should go about doing next, and any other game ideas you guys wanted to go about seeing, or any streaming based events, just let me know right down below in the comment section. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna be it for me, guys. If you guys haven't already, I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I hope to see you guys real soon. Later.